Grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool, we gon' grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. Whipping in the kitchen, whipping in the kitchen. I be whipping in the kitchen, whipping in the kitchen. Chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up. Grown food. Grown food. Chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up.
In my hood, they ain't really much to eat. Popeyes on the corner, McDonald's right across the street. All this talk about guns and the drugs, pretty serious. But look at what they feeding y'all. That's what's really killing us. Please change. The food in my school, make it good. Get that fake food up out of my hood. Hope the message not misunderstood. Grow and cook your own food, yes you could. Got the little homies in the garden. Got the big homies selling collard greens in the north side. Ain't starving since community cooks been on the scene.
Screaming hot Cheetos and Takis, boy, you better eat your broccoli. Fake food is kinda lame, putting poison in your brain. Need more people at the club, popping bottles of that water, dabbing on that fast food. Pulling veggies out the garden, I go hard, I eat good, and I put that on my mama. Eating healthy school lunch, and that's where the Miss Obama. Drinking water, living longer, no processed drama. Call me John Deere, shawty, I be growing like a farmer. Dad.
Grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool, we gon' grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. Whipping in the kitchen, whipping in the kitchen. I be whipping in the kitchen, whipping in the kitchen. Chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up.
I get the C from the oranges. I get the B from the broccoli. I get the A from the milk. I get my vitamins properly. My food be packed with the minerals. I hope you taking this literal. So when you 65 plus, you should be passing your physical. Try tell them. But they did not believe me. Thought that sugar was sweet. Till I got diabetes. You better rethink your drink. This stuff is not what you think. Get you some water or something. I get it free from the sink. Keep it healthy, but still got that good taste. Got an appetite for flavor and an appetite for change. If you need a couple corners, I can get you some help. And then I see you on the vibe. Cause you need some milk.
11-year-old with some big dreams, about to make it big on the big screen. Don't pay attention to TV, cause fake food ain't what you need. Come on the house, let us chop it up. That spin telling mix made it popular. The youth that are drooping, don't stopping us. The youth that are drooping, don't stopping us. But the health, wealth, social change, my fruits and veggies be off the chain. Want real food for real people, gonna break it bread. Cafe, real money, that's all I need. Get the green, broccoli. Wanna make 100 meals, we don't cook the 100 meals, cause my people gotta eat.
Grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool, we gon' grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. Whipping in the kitchen, whipping in the kitchen. I be whipping in the kitchen, whipping in the kitchen. Chop it up.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Food Solidarity Gathering. What an awesome video. Wow, you guys are about to get like 1,000 more views because I think I'm going to listen to that every morning too. So, wow, very, very good. Seriously, amazing. So, well, welcome to the Social Gastronomy's Food Solidarity Gathering. We're almost through the week. We've had some incredible sessions already. So many stories shared, so many challenges shared, emotions, ideas, best practices. It's been really, really quite the incredible week. The goal of this event was really to connect, to share, and to collaborate across sectors, across countries, across interests. And And that's what we're here to do. And before I introduce this session, which is I've been looking forward to for so long, I'm just going to go over some technical points. First off, we will be recording this session. So if you would like to share with your network who can't be here today, we encourage you to visit our YouTube channel to check out this recording as well as the recordings from all of the other sessions throughout the week. Second point is we will have a poll at the end of this session. We really value your feedback, so it'll pop up about 10 minutes before the end of the session. So if you see something pop up, just respond and it'll close as soon as everybody responds. So, and third point, we will have a Q&A at the end of this session as well. So if you have questions throughout the session, please drop them in the chat. I'll be keeping track, so we'll make sure to address them all towards the end during the Q&A. Okay, so I'm beyond honored to be introducing this session today. I've kind of experienced this deep anxiety not living in America because I'm American this year. But also I've just been so impressed by the resilience and the resistance shown in communities throughout my country. So I think that this conversation about the intersection between race and food justice is a critical one for us to have, not only as Americans, but also as a global community of individuals that work with food as a tool for social change. So without any further ado, I would really like to introduce Michelle and Tasia from Appetite for Change.
Hello. Thanks, Maya, for that lovely introduction. And I hope that you enjoyed the grow food video. I think if you Google grow food, that's like the #1 link that comes up. So if you're interested in watching that again, just Google grow food. And if we have time at the end, we'll try playing. There's like a sequel to grow food called Trap or Grow, which we'll talk a little bit about in our presentation, but we can play that as well. Welcome. Thanks for coming to the Social Gastronomy Movement Food Solidarity Gathering and this session specifically. I was saying before you all joined that I should have blocked like my whole week so that I could watch all the sessions because there's been so many amazing sessions. So I really encourage for those of you who haven't attended any of the other sessions to check out the YouTube channel and watch them. I know I will be catching up on the ones that I missed. So I would love to, let's see, is this gonna work here? There we go. The title of our session is Facing 2020 with Intention. Obviously, it's been a really challenging year with the world pandemic, but also with other specific challenges that our different communities have faced. So we're going to talk about who we are, what we do, and how we've responded to some of those challenges. And I think at the heart of that really is the intersection of racial justice and food justice. So who we are, you can read, this is just the bio from our websites, but I'm Michelle, and I'm one of the 3 founders of Appetite for Change. So been around since the beginning and have a checkered past of being a recovering public defender, waiting tables for 10 years, and working, having the fortune of working for a James Beard award-winning chef in Miami, Florida. And I will turn it over to my friend and colleague.
So my name is Lataja Powell. I am the program evaluator here at Appetite for Change, although I wear many hats that you will find out later in this presentation. Like Michelle, I've been around AFC since the beginning. I helped found our youth programming. And that's pretty much it. I guess you'll find out more as we get to it.
So, yeah, this is just the description of the session. The lovely slide template that SGM gave us for these presentations. I felt like I wanted to fill every page. So, but really how we started Appetite for Change. Oh, this is Tasia. Sorry, I gotta follow my notes, guys. Gotta follow my notes. Tasia, this is all you.
Got it. So Appetite for Change started with Michelle Horowitz, who's on here with us, Latasha Powell, and Princess Haley, by bringing 250 North Minneapolis community members together to cook, eat, and dialogue about the change that they would like to see within themselves, their community, and just within their families. And so that kind of started our flagship program, Community Cooks, which is known for bringing people together to cook, eat, and talk about the different things they would like to see. And we really use Community Cooks to understand and listen to the voices here in the community, just to really know like what they want to see here. And so Community Cooks is that place for all of that. And we have I forgot to mention, we have 3 different Community Cooks. One is just for anybody in the community. You could bring your whole family, you could bring yourself. We have one specifically for youth, because we noticed like at our main Community Cooks, the youth in the program, well, the youth there will always be like, these people keep telling us pull our pants up, or these people keep telling us this. And so we wanted a space where youth can finally feel like youth and be around other youth who also want to learn how to cook, who also want to talk about different things that youth face that adults may not know about. And then we have one specifically for new mothers who are expecting a child or has a child under the age of 5 that would like to know different ways of feeding their child and what's the best practices for them as becoming new mothers in this crazy, crazy world we live in.
Thanks, Tasia. Oh, and I think, let's see, if people have questions while we're talking, feel free to just plop them in the chat if you don't want to forget your question, because we're just going to do a presentation, but then leave the majority of the time for question and answer and dialogue. We have a nice small group. I think I'm not able to see how many people we have now, but I think it's a small group still. And so feel free to put your questions in the chat, or when it comes to Q&A, we can just have you unmute yourself and ask it live. So what do we do? Well, there's the pre-COVID answer, which is basically lots of different things. As Tasia mentioned, we brought people together because we didn't really want to impose what we thought the community needed or wanted around food justice. We really felt like we needed to listen to the people that were serving and design any programs around the needs of the community. And so while Community Cooks became like our flagship program, because everyone said they just loved coming together to cook and eat and talk, we also listened to what else people said they wanted, and they wanted to learn how to grow food and have spaces to grow food. People wanted a farmer's market. Our city of Minneapolis had at the time like 25 farmers markets. We now have like 30 farmers markets, but 0 were located in North Minneapolis, which is the part of the city that we do our work in. And people wanted to have more restaurants, more places to sit down and eat. Before Breaking Bread Cafe opened, which is our restaurant, there was no place along the West Broadway Avenue, which is the commercial corridor of our community, no place to sit down and be served a made from scratch food. And I think Tasia will probably talk about this later, but our youth, just decided they were going to figure out what the foodscape looked like, and realized that there was like 36 fast food, corner store, fried food, junk food options in a 2-mile stretch of this main corridor, and no place to get what we call real food. And then we also have a commercial kitchen that we support food entrepreneurs and small startup businesses. And we work with a partner in our community that offers like technical assistance and training for the entrepreneurs to learn how to start their business. And then we provide affordable kitchen space for them. They can use our cafe to do pop-up well, pre-COVID, they could use our cafe to do pop-up restaurants. And then we have a farmer's market, West Broadway Farmers Market, and some of the kitchen folks, businesses, entrepreneurs have products that they sell at our market. So jams or baked goods or, different food items. And then, as Tasia mentioned, she helped start our youth training and opportunity program, which is job readiness and leadership skills and social and emotional health, but all around food. So the youth help us do our cooking workshops. They grow the food on our urban farm sites. They sell the food at the farmers market. For a while, we had them training and working in the cafe, and we can talk more about this later, but that was kind of, I don't want to say a disaster, but that was something we tried and scaled back on, because a lot of youth had never had a job before. And so throwing them into the craziness of working in a restaurant was challenging. And then we were also training adults, and it didn't work to kind of mix the two together. And then we also coordinate a coalition on the north side called Northside Fresh. And it's made up of businesses, institutions, individuals, folks that are all working towards food justice and working on food access and food equity. And we provide a space for folks to come together and learn and share best practices and connect and partner and collaborate towards the change we're all trying to see. And we have different action teams and things that people do within the coalition. So yeah, post-COVID. Or like COVID and you got this, Tasia.
So I kind of like to, like, when I talk to people, we kind of like talk and we be like, what was worse, being Black in America or the pandemic of COVID? And so, like, I live in North Minneapolis, and I was actually one of the few people who was actually out marching and being peaceful and protesting during the whole George Floyd thing. And, we was trying to practice social distancing, but when there's something so hurtful like that, all you want to do is be around people. And so during that time, with the whole COVID situation and then the looting and the burning down businesses, it was mostly businesses and communities of people of color. And so, like I said, I live in North Minneapolis, and I seen literally the whole strip of Broadway be shut down. The main grocery store that's really used in North Minneapolis was looted and shut down for months and months and months. And it was kind of hard for people in this community to really find a place to go get food. And I want to say I'm thankful and grateful for having the knowledge and the resources to know where I can go outside of my community to get these things. But let's think about the people that don't have transportation or only know to go on the Broadway or can only walk to Cub Foods and things like that. So here at AFC, we kind of like to think, what can we do to help out with these things, especially when it's around food? And so the next slide, which I believe Michelle is talking about, we'll talk more about it, but we wanted to really get in and help those in need to figure out how they can feed their families, and also in the midst of losing their jobs due to COVID and due to the stores shutting down. And so we just wanted to be here for our community, how they have been here for us. And so that's the next slide.
All right. Whoops. Are you guys still seeing just the presentation, or did I do something wrong? Okay. So yeah, post-COVID, so our restaurant had to shut down. We had a COVID plan for the farmers market where we sell a lot of the food that we grow, but as a result of the uprisings and Tasia, like, we set up tables and handed out food at protests. That was one way. Like, we tried to feed the protesters, tried to feed people who were just peacefully in the streets. And I know that, like, I don't know, police brutality isn't something new. It's not something that just appeared, and police killing African Americans is not new. It's just more widely being seen because of cell phone videos and technology and social media and people sharing it. But it really hit our community very hard. Obviously, it hit Tasia and her community on the north side differently than where I live, which is on the south side of Minneapolis. George Floyd was actually murdered on the south side of Minneapolis, but protests and people voicing their trauma and their anger was happening all over the city. There was one march where people shut down the highway, and Tasia was actually on the highway when a big semi truck came and we don't know if it was an accident or on purpose, but people were almost run over by this truck on the highway. And so we did what we could to just feed the protesters. But there were on the north side, which is predominantly the Black community and people of color, there were white supremacists and people dressed to blend in and disguised as protesters that were actually the ones that were starting fires and damaging buildings. And you had community member militias, who have licenses to carry guns, who had to stand outside of businesses owned by people of color to protect the businesses. And you had people shooting and coming in from outside the community and causing all sorts of violence. And then when people are already in a really tough situation economically and struggling with health issues and just feeling like there's very little hope in the world, then you started to see an uptick in community violence and gang violence. And our restaurant is right on the main thoroughfare with a big open beautiful patio. Our farmers market is on Friday nights right on West Broadway from 3 to 7 p.m. Our youth run the farmers market. Our community members have their businesses there. So this is a really long way of kind of explaining why we made the really difficult decision to close the farmers market. And we needed a place for our produce to go. We really wanted to keep people employed in our kitchens, and we wanted to feed our community. And so kind of all of those things came together in a perfect storm and allowed us to partner with other organizations in our community that are, joining this social gastronomy movement and that we're trying to, organize here in the Twin Cities. And we really were able to innovate and pivot. So Tasia can talk about
this. So since COVID and all of the George Floyd things, we still wanted to have community cooks because we enjoy having people around. We enjoy talking to them and we enjoy learning from them. But since we couldn't do these things, we partnered up with other community members and community programs around North Minneapolis and out to start these community meal boxes, where we have been delivering over 250 meals for the past 12 weeks to people in the community. Inside of these boxes are fresh and locally grown produce, real fresh animal meat. Oh my gosh, gross. And just stuff like milk and different things you can, different seasonings and everything, because we wanted the people in the community to still have that family feeling, coming together around a meal, cooking, eating, and talking, and bringing back the hope to our community that we have lost over these past few months. And I'll really say this program, I want to see it keep going, because it's a really great program, and just hearing the feedback that we hear from the community is just the greatest thing ever for me personally. Yeah.
And I think, did I goof? Yeah, so on this slide, I was supposed to talk about Minnesota Central Kitchen. So many of you know of Jose Andres and World Central Kitchen. And when the restaurants shut down because of COVID, a lot of chefs had a ton of produce and food in their coolers and their freezers that they didn't want to go to waste. And so they started bringing it to this catering company that just said, you know, bring us your food, we'll prepare the meals in our kitchen and just give them out for free because we don't want this food to go to waste. But then a lot of folks just heard about this and started bringing food and donating food. And this catering company was like, okay, we're not a meal program. We don't have like the skills or experience or knowledge to organize this ourselves. So they reached out to like the local, they're part of a national group called Feeding America, but you know, it's like a huge food bank network, food shelf network here. And they asked for help to kind of just organize the donations that were coming in. And there was this sort of light bulb that went off that unlike a lot of other places in the US that have like more organized meal production and meal distribution delivery systems, we don't really have that here in Minneapolis and our sister city of St. Paul. We have like churches that will do a monthly meal or a weekly meal, or a homeless shelter that's feeding folks, or you know, a nonprofit that's feeding its residents, but there isn't sort of an organized network. And so COVID kind of sparked this creation of what's called Minnesota Central Kitchen. Actually, Jose Andres had just come to Minnesota in February and spoke. And so a lot of people here got to hear him talk about World Central Kitchen. And then he actually like donated some of the ticket sales to this food bank called Second Harvest. And so they were already like thinking about this model. And then when COVID hit, it just was like I said, a perfect storm. And so we became one of the foundational kitchens that came online in April. We started making 500 meals a day. Then we bumped up to 1,000 meals a day. Then we got our second kitchen, which is in St. Paul. Right before COVID, we opened another restaurant. I didn't even put it on the slide here because it was only open for 3 months before COVID hit, and then had to shut down. But we brought that kitchen online, and now we're making over 8,500 meals a week, and distributing those out to our partners. And this is a photo of one of our partners during the summer. By the way, it snowed here already, so we already got our first snowstorm, which is actually quite early for us, but it's sad because we have so much food in our fields that hopefully we'll still be able to harvest some of it. But so yeah, they just set up tables and handed out food, and then we brought a lot of the meals to partner organizations and where they distributed them. But between the Minnesota Central Kitchen and the Meal Box program, we've been really innovating and pivoting. And one of the cool things about the Meal Boxes is that we're using some of the food that we grow, because like we're not selling it at the farmers market, and then also working with immigrant and refugee farmers and smaller growers, urban farmers who they already aggregate their produce at a food hub here called the Good Acre, and partnering with the Good Acre to purchase that food from those growers, so that, you know, because the restaurants closed down, a lot of these growers would be selling to restaurants. And if they don't produce enough to sell to grocery stores or the cooperatives, they kind of lost their buyers. And so we were able to support some of those growers and get their food. And every week we make new recipes that are based on the food that's coming out of the gardens. So yeah, what's race got to do with it?
The question everybody wants to know, right? So for me, over like my journey, I'm not that old, but like through a lot of my learning, I have seen that race plays a huge part in everything that we do, from the food that we eat, from the places that we live, from the schools that we go to different places that we go to have fun. It's all affected by race, the color of your skin. A lot of people don't like to admit it. They like to say that, oh, race doesn't exist anymore, or this and that, but it's because they're looking from a lens where they aren't affected. When you are the group that's affected by racism, you see how it affects you in every aspect of life. And just a few quick ones, because I know this is about like the intersectionality of race and food justice. Being in North Minneapolis, And as a child, I never really, paid attention to how much it affected me. But when I look at where I live, and again, I live literally a block off of West Broadway, which is one of our main streets. The food here is so horrible. When I be looking for good food, I be like, where can I go? Where can I go to sit down and actually have food at a restaurant? And I have to think, oh, I can't go nowhere inside of my community. I have to go outside of my community. When I go to the grocery stores and I just look at the food that they offer us as soon as we walk in compared to when I go to grocery stores outside of my community, it's a total difference. I walk into the grocery stores, they changed cup foods now, but when I walked into it a couple years ago, always seeing the unhealthy stuff, the snack cakes, the chips, the juice, the barbecue sauce. And when I walked into other stores outside of my community, I seen the fruits, I seen the vegetables, and I wasn't really aware of this until I started working with Appetite for Change and really learning more about food and why food is important to me. But it's really sad to see that you have to be a certain color or even in the certain class system to receive good food. And it should be something that everybody has access to. In this world, good food should be like, what is it? The little three things.
Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, good food should be a part of that. Because we all should have the right and the access. It shouldn't be because I make this much money or because I look like this that people think I don't want to eat good. And so that's just a little bit of what I wanted to say. And it's not even just here in North Minneapolis. I've been a part of a lot of different youth-led groups in every state that we travel to. It's like we're all fighting for the same thing. I remember going out to California. It was our first year working with Appetite for Change. And as a youth, I wasn't really aware of what was going on. And now that I look back, we were fighting for restaurants to pay the farmers more money for the tomatoes. And it was like the restaurant owners was pushing back against the farmers. And Michelle kind of talked about that a little bit, like farmers losing contracts and everything. And the farmers were people of color. And so race really plays a huge part when it comes to food and good food access. Michelle, if you want to add anything else, you can.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I recognize some of the names, so I know some of the folks listening here live in the U.S., but for those of you who maybe don't know the history, after slaves were emancipated, even so African Americans living in the Confederacy states, the southern states, were told that they would get 40 acres and a mule, and that was never made federal policy. And as a result, Black folks were forced into sharecropping, basically not slaves, but farming other people's land. They weren't allowed to own their own land, so they were never able to really build wealth off of the food system. And today, even though slavery as the original sin is no longer seen through mainstream, I would argue slavery still exists in the U.S. because the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, but said it's okay if you to force people to work if they've been convicted of a crime. So that's why we see our prison system being exploited and folks working for $1 a day in our prisons, doing all sorts of things that the private sector doesn't want to pay a living wage for people to do. But even today, where there's no slavery, Black farmers have been routinely refused loans from the United States Department of Agriculture. There actually was a recent Supreme Court ruling that demanded and mandated that they receive compensation for the years of racist policies that forced them off their land. But basically by the time that law was passed, they had lost all of their land. So yeah, I just want to kind of take us into more like, you know, modern times and just examples of how the food system is really built on the backs of people of color, obviously dating back to slavery, but systematic racism has perpetuated the inequities and caused even more ripple effects. Health, jobs, the ability to start businesses, access to land, access to capital, and then the dire consequences to public health, which we're seeing, you know, it's evidenced by the disparity in life expectancy of people of color versus white people in our country, and the health disparities that we knew about and we talked about and lots of communities have been talking about for years, but I don't think it became really well known until COVID hit the world, that people of color and poor people who don't have the same access to resources are disproportionately suffering from diabetes, obesity, hypertension, heart disease, diet and work related cancer, stress, and all of those things are like comorbidities for COVID, which is why you're seeing such drastically higher rates of illness and severe illness and death as it relates to COVID in communities of color. And if you're white, you tend to live longer, live in a neighborhood where property values are higher, you have more access to food, and life is very different. And so, you know, and I don't want to say like the corporate food system is completely to blame, but if you think about it, like one company in our country owns 90% of the seed supply. 3 companies process over 80% of our beef, and 3 or 4 companies in every region own most of the supermarkets and grocery stores. You know, thank goodness we have in our community a really strong cooperative movement. Shout out to the co-ops. I know one of our co-op folks is on the call here, and those are really important because it's community owned, and just providing much higher quality food and supporting local growers, and really part of changing some of the systems. So yeah, the youth are the truth. Tasia.
Yeah. Me again. So as Michelle mentioned earlier, one of our programs is the Youth Training and Opportunities Program, which is one of the programs that I help, bring about with Jesse McDaniel. And I really felt like it was a need for this program because the knowledge that I was receiving, I knew my friends wasn't getting the same thing. And so I wanted a program where youth my age, youth that looked like me, youth that didn't have access to everything I was having access to, I wanted them to have this opportunity as well. And so in 2015, we started our first real youth program where we had about 25 youth from the community. We sat in like this small little conference room, and we basically just was learning about the whole food system. And that's kind of like where we walked up and down Broadway and we was like, skip it. Let's count how many fast food restaurants we got, how many corner stores we got, and then let's count places where we can go get real food for real people. Well, after that counting, we came up with about 38 restaurants in corner stores where you can go get bad food, and came up with 0 where you can actually sit down and have real food. And so we wanted to see something change. And so our first project was opening up Breaking Bread Cafe and catering. And with that project, we really wanted to see like, what did the community want to see in this space? What did they want to smell? What type of food did they want to have? What type of music? And so that was like, Breaking Bread was a youth-led project. The next year, we was like, we want to bring more youth in, and instead of having those youth work on the same thing we worked on, let them pick another project. And so that's where the Grow Food video came from. And it was just a way of us letting kids our age, because we knew they were into like rap music and everything, letting them know how important it is to really know about your food, know where it's coming from, and how important it is to really cook your own food. And so if you listen to a couple of the lines, they talk about how bad the school lunch was, talking about how they the little homies in the garden growing and the big homies selling the collard greens at the farmer's market. From there, we led to the Trapper Grow Project, which y'all will hear shortly. Within this community, we get a lot of youth that's pretty much in the streets. And so we wanted to open the minds of those youth who deferred to the streets and not, another path. We wanted to let them know, like, you really have two options in this world. One of them is to trap and the other one is to grow. And our growing stands for a lot more than just growing food, growing personally, growing within your community, just growing yourself to be a better you. And so if we want to listen to that right now, we can, or we can wait to the end. Michelle, it's up to you.
I'll play it at the end because I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A.
All right. And then just really within this youth program, I want to see a lot of the youth come out like I was. So I became a part of AFC. I was 14 years old. Now I am 23. And through my years of being at AFC, I then went from being a youth intern to being a youth leader, to being a program facilitator, to now being in the role of program evaluator. And currently at the moment, I am acting as our office administrator. But I really want to use this program inside of ASC for other youth to find out who they truly are and what their true purpose is in this world. Because that's what AFC helped do for me. It helped me find who I am and what I want to do. It helped me realize that I wanted to bridge a gap between the police departments and the communities of color. So I am currently in school right now to become a law enforcement officer. And one of the ways I look at doing that is through food, because here at AFC, I learned that food blurs all the lines. Food brings everyone to the table. Whether we speak different languages, we look different, we eat different. If it's food there, we coming. And so that's just like one of the things that AFC really helped me learn throughout this youth project. And I have seen a lot of youth come in and out of this program, and they have took so much away from it. We have different youth starting their own businesses that's flourishing, different youth going into different parts of the food system, different youth having different opportunities within like different areas of the media. And so it's just like a really great program, and I really love it. It's like my little baby. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about the youth program.
Awesome. So yeah, these are our social media handles, and definitely join the community. If you're not on the social gastronomy map, get yourself on the map, join the movement, join the network. See our little dot there right in the middle of the country, that's us. And yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but thanks to all the social gastronomy partners. And yeah, with that, love to, I know there's been some questions in the chat, open it up. Anyone who wants to ask a question, I can try to answer some of the questions that I saw already in the chat. One question was about our funding model. Like pre-COVID, our goal was to get to 50% earned revenue, 50% philanthropic or contributed revenue. We were getting there, but we have a restaurant, we have a catering business, we sell the produce that we grow. We have contracted with other organizations to share our model and teach them how to do community cooks workshops, and have gotten paid a little bit for some of that work. And so that's how we earn revenue through our social enterprises. And then on the philanthropic side, it's grants, government contracts, individual donations, and just all the traditional ways that nonprofits get to go around and ask for money. And we've been grateful to have that support. And another question was, yeah, there's definitely been other groups in the Twin Cities. There's actually a really thriving sort of food justice community here in the Twin Cities. But one of the ways that, one of the things that I think is super inspiring about social gastronomy is that we haven't all been working maybe as collaboratively together as we could. There are a lot of youth programs, and sometimes the youth have been able to come together and do things, you know, collaboratively, but really hoping over the next couple of years to build more of a connective tissue between other organizations. And there are other amazing groups in the Twin Cities that are doing similar work. We're certainly not the only ones, and we haven't been around the longest either. We're only 9 years old, and so we're still learning and still sharing. And I will hand it over to Tasia to answer this question about challenges of engaging youth.
That was the question I was going to take on. So for me, I would say one of the biggest challenges, especially since it's around food, a lot of the youth don't want to go nowhere where they finna learn about food, especially when they never had to worry about food. Like, they probably don't do the grocery shopping at their home. They probably don't cook the meals. And so really trying to reach out to youth who don't have these opportunities is really hard. But I know for sure when you have somebody that look like the youth that you are trying to service, they are quick to jump aboard and be like, hey, let me get this a try. And then when they get in there and they get to learning everything, because it's not just food, but food does play a role in all aspects of life. They get here and then they be stuck and they be ready to take what they learn to everyone around them. And so that just brings more youth in. So really making it fun, making these nice little rap videos, making it, not just so adulty, making it more youth, putting youth in lead role positions, so they can see like youth that somebody that looks like them in a leadership role, they'll be like, wow, I want to be there in a couple of years as well. And so that's pretty much how we get our youth in. And I think I seen another question concerning youth.
Yeah, it was basically Tasia and Jesse making their friends come to community cooks is how we got the first youth. And then they had fun.
Those gems, those first gems.
Yes, exactly. So, and that's, I think that's the power of social networks and social capital, and having things be really rooted in community, because if it's created top down, if it's something the adults say you should do, if it's something someone outside of your community, somebody who doesn't look like you, doesn't have the same lived experience as you, you're like, nah. And then, if it's someone that you really relate to, it's like what Obama said yesterday, like, you have to make voting cool. You know what I mean? You have to like model it and get hyped about voting so that other people look at you and think like, oh, I should do that too. I don't know, Tasia, if you have more things to say. I'm not.
Yeah, I was
obviously
just gonna say it really was just us bringing our friends in, and that was it. And then the next year was like our friends, little brothers and sisters, and then they friends, and then the word started getting out about what Appetite for Change was and what we do, and the Grow Food video dropped, and then more youth was just coming like, wow, this sounds way cooler than working at any other job that I worked at before. I want to work here. And so that's really what it is. It's relationships and word of mouth.
And I think someone asked about the polls. Did that mean like voting, Nikki? Was that you?
Yeah. Because I know that Migrant Kitchen is doing some movements, and Johanna like on the DC area. But I was wondering if you guys are planning anything or.
There was a group that was gonna have like a huge event to try to get people registered to vote. And we were gonna be a part of that, but then their vision for it was outside of the public health parameters of what our governor would allow, so they couldn't have that large of an event. And I think if COVID had not happened, Appetite for Change would have done a lot more in the realm of registering people to vote and getting out the vote. But because we've been pivoting and doing all these meal productions and the meal boxes, and like, we are really taking COVID very seriously as an organization from a health and safety standpoint, because because people of color are so much more affected, and we just can't be the reason someone gets sick. And so like we have not allowed our youth, they were allowed to grow food in the gardens this summer and be socially distanced and be outside, but I mean, it's snowing, so like it's really challenging now that it's cold. We don't really know what we're going to do with youth. And most of them are in the public school system. They're spending all day online learning in virtual classes. Like the last thing they want or need is to sit in front of a screen again, you know, for our programming. So it's really tough. We've all become zombies. Did anyone hear that term? Zombies. Instead of zombies, we're zombies. Lost my mind. Does anyone else have any questions or comments or thoughts?
Yeah, it's 2 questions in the chat, and I can answer both of them. Well, one of them was directly towards me. So it was about how am I going to use food to bridge the gap between police and the community. I have this great idea in my head of at our community cooks events, because that's usually where we break all the lines, all the barriers. We bring different groups of people to community cooks. And so I did try this. We had one officer show up. He was the only officer that I was talking to at the time, show up to a community cooks event. And it was like a listening session, because so many times here in this community, police, they don't hear us. Sound like just screaming at them. And so it's kind of just a listening session for this officer to sit here. We wasn't allowing anybody to be rude, but for everybody to keep an open mind. We cooked the meal with the officer, and just let the community talk and let the officer talk back. But in my head, this great idea that I have is to have some officers out of uniform come into community cooks as regular people, cook with the community, talk with the community, really see that we are more alike than we are different. And after we're done cooking together and having those conversations, invite some more officers that's actually in uniform, and have those officers out of uniform reveal themselves as officers, just to show the community like we hate them so much, but we really don't know why we hate them. And this is just a goal of mine, because I do want to be a police officer, and I have taken the time out to really understand, police, what their jobs is, what they go through every day. And not everybody in the community knows that type of stuff. And so I wanted it to be like a real open listening session around food. And I see another one. Something about, so that's kind of this idea I have in my head, and I hope to bring it to life. I was just thinking today I was going to reach back out to that officer to see if the COVID and everything just really just messed up a lot of plans, but to see if we can try to get that to come back around in full circle and actually get it to work the way that it works in my head. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm trying to read the chat and answer questions.
Does anybody want to just pose a question, or if we missed it in the chat, just ask it out loud? We only have a few more minutes.
Just to let you guys know, I'm going to put the poll up right now really quickly. So if you see something pop up, it's just keep going.
Thanks,
Michelle. I'll jump in and kind of take your. I just typed it in, but I guess love this, very inspiring, and you guys are doing some amazing stuff. What would you kind of ask of us working in kind of food system and local food issues in the Twin Cities, and how can we best support your efforts and be good partners to you to kind of help further your efforts? And we can, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. We can talk about this offline as well, but just, it definitely got me very fired up and want to just think about how we can just support you guys so we can do even more of the great stuff you're doing.
Yeah, so just by way of reference, shout out I gave to co-ops was for Josh, because he runs one of the multiple co-ops that have merged recently, but just amazing member-owned cooperative grocery stores here in the Twin Cities. You know, and actually the Wedge is like kind of right on the edge of, it's like it's very close to downtown Minneapolis, so it's right on the border of South and North Minneapolis, and a lot of North Minneapolis residents go to the Wedge because for a long time it was like the only or closest co-op to them. So I think we should have a one-on-one, first of all, Josh. And I think that, you know, there's some organizing that we really started doing in the Twin Cities around, I don't know if you're familiar with like Metro Food Access Network or the Minnesota Food Charter Network, or these efforts to kind of organize the Twin Cities around food justice that have either like started and failed, or lost resources, or needed a new backbone or new home. And we started a process before COVID of like bringing all of those efforts together to reorganize ourselves to have a stronger food justice. And food justice for us is the same thing as social gastronomy, just to put that out there, is like, we just don't use that term here. But to kind of organize everybody into a broader, more collaborative network so that we aren't working in silos, and that there's action teams and things that people are working on, you know, to just build connection and build partnership and have more collective impact. So I think that there's a huge space for the cooperatives to do that. And if you guys have food that you think should go in our meal boxes, I think that's a cool way that we could partner. But also just, you know, bringing the cooperative model more to people more broadly. And I think there's a lot that we can do together if we're not, awesome. You know, if we're actually taking the time to talk to one another. I mean, you're so busy, we're so busy, everyone's so busy doing their own work. And I think if we lift our heads out of the sand, you know, every few moments or as often as we can, you know, we can get further, faster, more efficiently together.
Great. Well, let's definitely follow up and talk more and brainstorm.
Love that. Yeah.
Exciting.
Jimbo here.
Hi,
Michelle
Jim.
And Tasia. Hi, Michelle. I'm so glad to be on your team. I'm so glad we're all on the same team. I'll put it that way.
So glad to have you. Jim is an elder in our community that is one of the founders of Northside Fresh Coalition and does compost training for our youth.
Composting and food drying.
And canning, yeah.
Both preservation, completing the circle, you might say. And Tasia, I so support you in your dream of becoming a police officer.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. Oh my. I maybe you do and maybe you don't know Lisa Clemens. If you don't, find Lisa Clemens.
Lisa Clemens.
Yes, ma'am. She lives here in North Minneapolis, and she's a retired police officer, and I'll bet she can help you big time.
Got it noted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you guys get my question? Just like something that went through my mind. You know, we have George, we have people calling in from your area now here. And do you get to like, did it need this webinar to connect you guys? Or, because in Paris, that's what happened afterward. There were 45 people from the Paris community and they said, oh my God, it needed the Brazilians to bring us to the table. What is this, you know? So I thought that was really like, just now that went like that, just, you know, hearing these local connections happening on a global call was really interesting to see that as well. Or maybe it's just yet another opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's just more of an opportunity. I mean, Josh's co-op for a long time was really helpful in getting a group on the north side to start their own co-op. And then there were some, you know, major challenges and that co-op actually ended up having to close, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's like like I said, we get into our silos, and especially with COVID, it's just made it even more challenging to connect. And I also think that there's also this weird kind of artificial sort of barrier sometimes between sort of like the for-profit world and the nonprofit world. And like, you know, so you have chefs and restaurants and grocery stores, like, and co-ops, they're so busy because the margins are so tiny, and they're just trying to keep people employed and then you've got the nonprofit world, and they're hustling and have no funding and trying to, you know, do their work. And that's what I think the beauty of this network is, and the opportunities to have more local connection, because it's just, yeah, it's pretty powerful. And Tasia thinks she kicked herself off, so she might join back, but I know it's 3 o'clock, so I really appreciate everyone. I'm gonna try to play Trap or Grow on the way out, just in case anyone wants to listen to that. And yeah.
Before you play, I'll just and I'm so excited to watch this too. Super excited. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining. And if Tasia doesn't come back, please thank her for us. But
will do.
Come back on. And yeah, I just, if anybody wants to learn more about the social gastronomy movement, please do. Here she is. Awesome. Please do check out our website. It's www.socialgastronomy.org. I think we are exactly like you said, if we all lift our heads up, even from various corners around the world, and we are stronger and better together. So if you're interested in partnering, allying, becoming a part of the social gastronomy movement, please do reach out.
Well
awesome.
Said, friend.
Thanks, Maya. And yep, and our email, we're easy to find. But here is, you'll see Tasia, she's back on the call, but you also see her starring in this video.
I think it's on mute.
Yeah, I can't hear.
Maybe if you send it to Janet, she can share it, because
oh, is it not playing?
It could be that thing we happened earlier. Do you remember when you go to share screen, there's a checkbox to say put audio on?
On
Michelle.
the bottom left.
Yeah.
I think only you have that option, Janet, as host.
Try this. Does this work? Is that working?
Nope.
What you have to do, Michelle, is go out of the share screen.
Okay.
And then when you go back in to share screen, there's a checkbox, and you check that. I had this challenge today, so
lower left.
Oh, here we go.
Cool.
Thanks. Whoops. All right, does this work?
No. You can send it over to me.
Is it working? Are you hearing it?
No, I think if you could send it to Janet, because she already had it all set up on her computer.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Michelle, is this a sequel to the one we heard in Malmo?
Yes, it's the sequel.
Oh, yes.
And this one is a little different because we let the youth completely lead. So it's a little less edited by the adults.
Makes Q even more excited now.
I think he knows how I think.
See?
Tasia, by by the way.
Come on, man. Bro, what is you doing? I need some of that stuff. Bro, what stuff? I need some greens. Bro, you know you're not supposed to be knocking on the front door. Meet me in the bag. Say that then. Yeah.
Is you gon' trap? Is you gon' grow? From the highs into the lows. I'm with the gang, and I'm with the bros. And we on stage, and we doing shows. Hey, trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. What you doing, bro? I don't know. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. Trapper, it's not healthy. Grow. You know, these are my teenage years. I got the bands, I don't got a trap. Yeah, I can grow and I can rap. I got the sack, flip it right back, make that clap. Versus attack. Hey, Leah, come see me. I got that green and just for the free. Everybody know I'm about my dough. Everybody know I am for sure. I'm on the corner, selling that work, shooting my funds, tilling that dirt. All of my brothers, they ready to go. We from the out west, real cold. All of my sisters, they melon and gold. They ready to ride when everybody go. That's how we go. That's how we roll. That's how we go. Hey, yeah, it's Ari on the beat. I'ma grow so I can eat. AFC is where I be. Eating good, and that's on me. Ain't no TRAPPING. Loving the hood, and the hood love me. See, when I was young, we put down the guts. Fought with our fists, we did one-on-one. After all that, the beef was done. We ain't go to the book, we ain't arguing none. I be over North Roads, real fun. I had my voice, cause that was my gun. My words was bullets, the left was stun. Youth is the truth, but I am no one. So stop all the violence and put down the guns. This rap is cold, but my verse is done. Is you gon' trap? Is you gon' grow? From the highs into the lows. I'm with the gang, and I'm with the bros. And we on stage, and we doing shows. Hey, trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. What you doing, bro? I don't know. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. What you doing, bro?
Is it gon' trap or is it gon' grow? I'm getting the bread, yeah, I'm getting the dough. I spend a couple bands to go get some more. Remember them days you used to trap at the store. Remember them days you used to sleep on the floor. I get the cash, you gotta do it no more. You told the blick, I gotta shoot it no more. So you best get with the moomala, bro. So you best get with the moomala, dude. Best rethinking, drinking, rethinking food. Look at what all this stuff doing to you. Why every night somebody got a shoe? Boy, you should know that the youth is the truth. We got the produce, we got the food. We don't know you. Well, who is you? Can't come to ASC, you can't get a boot.
Growth, you trapped on home, you stuck in that trap, ain't nothing like home. You don't see no color, you don't see that sugar, that jugger, that pain, the gain, that hustle. Just go home, stay on lane, come to AC and chill the gang. Tell that next, we high command, build that brand and we getting that grand. We on that corner, ain't nothing playing, shooting dice with your life, the stupid stuff. You don't live twice, do you wanna die? You should honor your life. Why when you see them, it's always on side. Our black boys is blinded, their future bright, the struggle's real. I know you feel, let's come together and we can just build. Is you gon' trap? Is you gon' grow? From the highs into the lows. I'm with the gang, and I'm with the bros. And we on stage, and we doing shows. Hey, trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. What you doing, bro? I don't know. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. Trapper, grow. What you doing, bro?
That's amazing. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was all right. Well, we're well over time here. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to Maya and Janet and Nikki and Q and everybody. Thanks. And thanks for all of you who showed up.
Thank you.
I'm cleaning my house, mate. We just saw the video and thought it was amazing.
I love it. Yeah, share it.
Keep up your good work, you wonderful women.
Thanks, Jimbo. We'll see you soon.
You're welcome. Farewell.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you
Bye,
so
everyone.
much.